you're holding this office is, in a way, uncharted territory for the district. You're the city's first elected attorney general. But the mayor recently proposed moving the power to review city laws, land deals, and contracts to lawyers on her staff. How do the changes that she is proposing affect what you felt was the job you were signing up for when you ran for this seat?
Well, thank you very much, Kojo, for that question. In fact, the mayor's budget support legislation did, in fact, suggest that those core functions of review of legislation and of land deals, the biggest contracts the city does, should be reviewed by her own lawyers and not the Attorney General. I respectfully disagree with that notion, and frankly, I think that the referendum creating the Attorney General statute is quite clear, as well as the law implementing it in 2014, quite clear. Those functions, the review of legislation and the big land deals, are essential to be reviewed by the Attorney General. It is a critical part of our checks and balances. Checks and balances in government are good things. They are consistent with a mature democracy, a democracy that people can be proud of.
You were elected to be independent. Do you feel that this would compromise your independence? Because what the legislation seems to say is that you would only review these items if requested to do so by the mayor.
Well, I think the mayor's proposed legislation is wrong. I think it's, frankly, I think it's inconsistent with the law, certainly inconsistent with the referendum, and again, the council's law passed in October 14. It would indeed strip the independent elected attorney general of what the people wanted. And they wanted an attorney, apart from the mayor, who would be honest and provide that essential check and balance that mature democracies require.
She is gutting your office. That's what the critics say.
Well,
Is gut too strong of a word in your polite legal words?
I think that the mayor's proposal would take away core and critical functions from the independent attorney general.
Gut, I think, is the popular word. One-on-one, have you spoken to her?
I should tell you, I have tremendous respect for the mayor. I've supported the mayor in her prior council races and certainly supported her in her most recent run for mayor. We have discussed these issues, and we've discussed them, frankly, in a professional way. Sometimes newspapers and radio shows, not yours, tend to like to create rivalry. The reality is we're having a very important disagreement, a disagreement that I happen to believe I'm on the right side of. I'm on the side of the voters, 76% of whom decided that they wanted an independent elected attorney general. I hope that the mayor, her team, and I are able to work through these problems, even as we're navigating the course through the council.
When are you going to sit down with the mayor and, quote, work things out?
Well, I think what's really important here is that what we're talking about is a mayoral proposal to shift responsibilities away from the Attorney General. Just because a mayor proposes to do so doesn't make it so. The council has a lot to do with where we end up on these issues, and I'm very confident that the council will respect the will of the people who so clearly wanted the District of Columbia to represent the best governance in this country.
The same council who tried to prevent this referendum from going forward in the first place?
And then gutted the lawyers out to the...
And let me make the point again. I actually have faith in this council, that the council will do the right thing and will recognize that they cannot overturn, disregard, nor disavow the will of 76% of the voters who absolutely wanted an independent attorney general to do independent reviews, yes, of big business deals in this city.
Do have to mention that Mayor Bowser appeared on News Talk on News Channel 8 with Bruce DePoit this morning. She said her suggestions for the shifts in responsibility are not, in fact, a power grab. And over and above that, she said she's helped your office to establish more independence by removing barriers that prevented you from hiring your own chief of staff. Care to comment on that?
Sure. In the context of the transition, of course, we had several conversations about different things concerning exempted employees and my need to be able to bring in lawyers and staff. And she certainly facilitated that, and I thanked her for that. What we're having now is what I believe is the most important discussion around independence, autonomy, and the future, frankly, of voting rights and statehood that this city has ever had. We need to have a District of Columbia that reflects confidence in the different branches of government and separation of powers.
By the time we'll have a special election before this decision is decided, we'll have 2 new council members. Many people think the people endorsed by Bowser will win, that she'll have a fairly strong hand on the council. Do you think you'll have 7 votes to protect the independence of the Attorney General's office?
I certainly believe that I'll have 7 votes. I think that the council members who choose to go against the clearly articulated, stated will of 76% of the folks who wanted an independent attorney general office are acting at great risk if they reject what the people clearly wanted.
Would you have even run for this job if the responsibilities that went with it were what Mayor Bowser is trying to organize or propose right now?
That's a fair question. I think the answer is absolutely not. The reality of it is, Kojo,
I'll be tweeting that response.
I left a great job with a great firm in order to join the city government because I was excited by the concept of separation of powers, by the concept of showing all the states, and indeed Congress, that we know how to run our democratic business here in the District of Columbia. I ran not to be someone, but to do some things like juvenile justice, a focus on consumer protection, and yes, building an independent office of Attorney General that has one objective, and that is honest government.
The Washington Post editorial board wrote this week that while the mayor's office is trying to change your office, you've also been lobbying to use money from court settlements to build a new fraud unit. They characterized it as a flashy new fraud unit. What would you say to those who feel that you're trying to build your office into something that is more in line with your prerogatives rather than what voters asked for when they elected you, when they voted to create this elected position?
Sure, Kojo. As a former Washington Post paper boy, I can tell you it's with a heavy heart that I say that I completely disagree with the Post characterization of what we're trying to do in the area of consumer protection. In fact, building a consumer protection fund is not a novel concept. States like Ohio, West Virginia, Arizona, Florida, Missouri, New Jersey, Utah, and Washington State have similar funds. What my proposal was an attempt, frankly, to save the city money. I didn't want to go hat in hand to the council for more money to establish a consumer protection unit. What I proposed was a novel idea for the city, but not for other states, and that is, look, give us some of the money that we're able to bring in when we successfully prosecute wrongdoers in the area of consumer protection. Nothing more, nothing less. And as to building the Office of Attorney General, I think we have a very good office now. My goal, Kojo and Tom, in 4 years, we're going to go from good to great. And we're going to need the council's help in order to give us the tools that we need to get to that place where the citizens of the District of Columbia know that the chief law enforcer in D.C. always has their back.
It used to be that the Attorney General had attorneys general in every agency, every significant agency of the city. And that attorney, just like in the chief financial officer's office, those CFOs report to the CFO. But under the change in the law, the attorneys general in each of the different agencies actually report to the director of those agencies. And you've also asked that the authority over those various attorneys general be brought back under the Attorney General office. Why?
Well, let me be clear. I campaigned on the view that those attorney general who were taken out of the Office of Attorney General to go out to the agencies should come back. I have actually not proposed legislation asking the council to reverse the decision they made 6 months ago. I'm willing to work with the status quo right now. I do think the best practice is to have those attorney general come back at some point. But again, in an attempt to work with what we have and be moderate, not aggressive, I've determined that I can work with the mayor's Office of Legal Counsel, Mark Toohey, in making sure that those attorney general out in those agencies are applying one law and are actually doing their jobs consistent with that law and are being independent in doing
This
so.
is another check and balance that you're trying to recreate.
That's exactly right. That's
Okay.
exactly right.